Now, Ukraine's President Zelensky, he's threatened potential prosecutions of local officials if there is any repeat of the failure to open air raid shelters that contributed to the deaths of 3 people in Kyiv on Thursday. A 9-year-old girl, her mother and another woman died after trying to use a shelter during a Russian missile strike, only to find that it was closed. Mr. Zelensky said the shelters had to be accessible 24 hours a day. Well, this was the scene in Kyiv, a subway station there, as fresh Russian airstrikes triggered countrywide alerts overnight. The Ukrainian government says 36 drones and missiles were shot down in and around the capital. Our correspondent James Waterhouse has the latest from Kyiv.
A colleague filmed some of the air defences working last night, and it's almost a bizarre fireworks display where you can see projectiles flying across the sky, lighting up the area in this deep orange at times. And this is the kind of cocktail people are having to sleep with at night, where you have the air raid sirens followed by explosions. It's a disturbed night for so many people, where they are urged to go down to the shelters. And it seems yesterday that 3 people were died because of a public air raid shelter being locked. And this has President Zelensky didn't hold back with his criticisms of Vitaly Klitschko, who is the mayor of Kyiv. These two are not exactly political allies. They're both very different beasts with different loyalties and different priorities. And President Zelensky said, look, we thought we had Russia, but it turns out we have internal enemies as well. Vitaly Klitschko has just responded, in short saying, yes, I'm responsible, but it's the president who installed the district officials who are responsible for the air raid shelter. So yes, I'm responsible, but it's not my fault, was the crux of his response. So there's quite an ugly bit of political fallout from what was a deeply tragic incident where 3 people, including a mother and her 9-year-old daughter, were killed from falling debris as they tried to take cover. And as you say, Russia seems to be being relentless with its strategy of targeting Ukrainian cities. And there's always the danger for people that they get used to these sirens. But as we can see, there are times when innocent people can find themselves on the sharp end of this destruction.
Yeah, particularly if some of those attacks come during daylight hours, which seems to be perhaps a new tactic, doesn't it, James? And just while we have you, what do you make of what we heard there from America's top diplomat, Antony Blinken, speaking in Finland? And he said a strong Ukraine, one in control of its own territory, really has to be a prerequisite for any sort of talks with Russia. And he's warned against maybe perhaps a bit of compromise, that idea that there might be a fake settlement, a fake peace deal, or a fake ceasefire. How is that being viewed where you are?
I think that's an emphasis, really, an emphasising of Ukraine's long-standing position. What President Zelensky believes is that if you make any kind of territorial concession to Russia, he says, then there are no guarantees that Vladimir Putin will stop just there. It essentially rewards the illegal invasion of Ukraine. And if Russia has any kind of physical foothold in Ukraine, then it gives likelihood to the chance of further aggression down the line. So it's a stance that Kyiv hasn't really moved on.
An accident during its planned
but there are
satellite
also
launch,
military realities
satellite
here.
crashing
There's a
into the
counter-offensive
sea,
that's getting
originally
much talked
scheduled
about,
to
much
monitor U.S.
anticipated,
military
much
activities.
hopeful.
The launch
But
was
the
set to be
chances of
completed by
Ukraine repelling
11th
Russia
of June.
completely, as it
However,
would dearly love
North
to do,
Korea
remain
now intends to
slim at this
conduct a
moment in
second
time, for the
launch at
simple
the
reason
earliest opportunity.
it is still the
This
underdog,
incident caused
and
a
Russia
false alarm in
has
Seoul, the
extensively
capital of
dug
South
in
Korea,
anticipation
and prompted a warning
of
to
such a
residents of
Ukrainian
Okinawa,
attack. But I think
situated
what
in southern Japan.
Ukrainian forces will
The
be hoping to
accident
do is
highlights the challenges
put
and
Moscow
risks
in a difficult
associated with
enough
North Korea's
position
space
that it
program
may
and
well
has raised
make
concerns
some
and
kind
attention
of
from neighboring
concession.
countries
But
regarding
the
missile
path to any
technology
kind of compromise,
advancements.
any kind of deal, as of the last 15 months, is still unclear. But I don't think we're going to see a change in the official stance of Ukraine of surrendering any kind of territory, because what President Zelensky wants to do is not just win this war, which is repelling Russia completely in his eyes, but also securing Ukraine's long-term security on issues of joining the NATO alliance, for example, or the European Union. But he's failed to get any kind of concrete guarantees aside from platitudes such as Ukraine belongs in these blocks, but we're not going to say when.
There's our correspondent there in Kyiv, James Waterhouse, with the latest on those attacks overnight and the implications and the diplomacy that's going on right around the world right now.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has sternly cautioned Kyiv officials of potential legal consequences if they fail to maintain public access to air raid shelters. This ultimatum follows a devastating incident where 3 individuals, a 9-year-old girl, her mother, and another woman, lost their lives during a Russian missile strike in Kyiv. Tragically, they discovered the shelter was closed when seeking refuge. Zelensky emphatically asserts that these shelters must be available 24/7, demanding continuous accessibility to safeguard citizens in times of crisis.